Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as, what's more, as presented? So moved. All right, Jennifer's, moved. Do I have a second? Second. Russ is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yeah.
All those opposed say no. All right, moving ahead. First, staff. Can we mute someone else?
360.
This one?
You probably got some position, planning commission.
1360518.
You get it? We're quiet now. Okay. Sorry. From the staff, Angelina, anything to report today? No. Chad, do you have anything to report today?
Yeah, we've been busy here at the city. Things are going pretty well. Nothing big to report with police or fire. Things have been pretty average in regards to our call response. Working on a couple of cases in town. We've had a few prowlers and things that have been going on. So something that you're going to want to, be aware of, but no major crime sprees or anything like that. We had.
You said prowlers. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, some people that are walking around town and that, and then we're keeping a pretty good eye on it and have some things, but just wanted to make you aware of that. Today at 4 o'clock, I had a special council meeting with the city council, and they voted for the resolution to go towards the bond for the remodel of the public safety or the fire station, the city hall, and to remodel public works and rebuild some public works. So we've been going through that process. The information will be posted tomorrow on what that looks like. But the city has determined to move forward with a $10 million obligation bond. And that includes remodeling the fire station, potentially taking care of some of the seismic issues that we have there, but not turning it into a building that will be seismically sound or survive an earthquake. That scope was what we were discussing beforehand with the kind of the unfunded mandate of critical infrastructure issues. The only way we can really make that building seismically sound is if we did all of that deep earthwork that was about an $8 million project. And to tell you the truth, we can't do any of that deep earthwork with the current building because it just won't withstand the process. So we are looking at remodeling, which would include things such as making some really minor changes to their meeting space, a new kitchen, plumbing and electrical upgrades so that we can take a 1958 building and turn it into something that's a little bit more usable for 2026. Especially with our call volume increase and the amount of people. We're looking at adding a couple of offices in there so we can move the fire station out of this building here and give that area to the police department that needs it. Then if we move the fire station into the shop that's behind the fire station, which is called the water shop, we would need to replace the public works building, which needs to be done anyway because the old building for the public works is quite old and needs a lot of help. So the 10 million project would include all of those things. We're looking at some other ideas and things that are kind of happening around town with maybe some property acquisition to us next door with Pacific Power. And then maybe another idea that we're looking at that we're just finalizing with the city council through executive session. And we'll have more about that next week. It was a unanimous decision by the city council to move forward. To take care of the health, safety, and operational deficiencies of the buildings that we currently have and to make it safe for our first responders to use. And hopefully carry us in through the next 20 or so years within the city of Gearhart. So they accomplished that today. We'll be going through that process and more information to come. So I wanted to see if there's any questions about that update.
I have a question, Chad.
Yes, sir.
Will they fix the OSHA, potential OSHA violations in the existing station?
Not all of them, but not all of them are actual violations. If we were to replace the building, they would require us to build it in a certain way, and there's only certain things that we can do. But the voluntary or some of the things that we can do, such as the exhaust system for the exhaust gases that are out there, a decontamination area for both personal, for the firefighters and police officers who get things on as they're doing their work as volunteers, and the professionals there. And equipment, it will add a little bit more space between some of the vehicles that we need, but we're not changing the size of the building, we're just reconfiguring it. So yeah, it'll take care of quite a few of the things that OSHA was mostly concerned about. But there's a level of their requirements that we just cannot take care of because it's not a new construction, but they understand that and they would allow us to continue. So I hope that answers the question for you.
Any other questions, Brian?
Will we get more length for fire trucks so we don't have to have those customized trucks?
Yeah, with the reconfiguration, so in the back part of the fire station is where all the turnouts are at. Turnouts of the fire gear that the firefighters put on before they go out. If we can move, we need to move that as part of the OSHA requirements and some of the other things, because the exhaust mixing with the turnouts of what we wear on a daily basis is not the best environment, especially for cancer causing issues, which firefighters are already exposed to. So yeah, it will help with that. Now, if we can move the turnouts, then we have full length bays that we would then be able to accommodate larger trucks in the future.
Yeah, good.
Any other questions? Do you have anything else?
I do.
Yes.
I have another update. This is a clarification. I was asked about the appeal process for the Jeffrey Miller short-term vacation rental situation. I wanted to clarify what that was. So in regards to the Jeff Miller short-term rental matter, the planning commission was asked to hear an appeal. But under our ordinance structure, the commission's authority was limited to applying the code as written. And I think that made kind of an uncomfortable spot with some people that were in this meeting. And we're like, well, if there's really nothing that we can do for an appeal, why were we doing it? The short-term rental ordinance is a legislative policy decision adopted by the city council. And the commission does not have the discretion to modify or reinterpret that policy, only to determine whether it was applied correctly. So in that case, the appeal process provided an opportunity. And this is what Peter Watts was working with us when we were going through this. It provided us with an opportunity for public testimony and for the commission to review whether the ordinance has been properly administered. That's really kind of where we were setting that up. And I think that could have been set up a little bit better in advance. It was not a vehicle for change of the ordinance itself, and any change in the underlying policy would require legislative action by the city council. So I understand why there was a little bit of confusion for that, but that's really what we were trying to accomplish, is the communication to people of Gearhart and to potentially get out in front of the planning commission and explain what's going on and how the ordinance operates. But there wasn't really an opportunity for you folks to turn that around and make another decision. So we'll better communicate that moving forward. But I think that was also helpful for the community to understand the way that our ordinance work. And how some people can get caught up into that situation if they don't do what they're supposed to do to maintain their permit. Hope that clarifies a little bit.
Are there any questions?
Has
Russ?
Miller gone to city council, or is that an opportunity that he has to try to, override our district?
No, the only opportunity for him is any type of an appeal is to go through the court process if we would have fined him for continuing on, which he didn't do. And then that would have given him an opportunity to get in front of a judge and discuss his case, and for the judge to push back on it as far as any problem with the ordinance. But in review and in reviewing with the attorneys, our ordinance is good.
Yes, okay.
Well, it's working. I'll let you determine whether or not it's good.
Anything else, Chad?
Okay.
All right. Garrett, do you have anything to report today?
Sure, just a couple of brief updates. So we don't have any new type 3 applications coming your way that have been submitted to us. So a little bit quiet on the official application front recently in terms of planning commission's work. The flood hazard overlay zone updates that were adopted and read for the second time by city council in December. We've been working on trying to incorporate those into our overall zoning ordinance PDF document, and it's just taken me a little bit longer than I expected to finish that and correct some section number and cross-reference numbers that needed a little extra work. So we don't have that ready for you. But we will have it done by the next meeting. I think that's about it from me. We have Rhiannon Bazor, DLCD's coastal shoreland specialist, here to present in a little while, and I'm looking forward to that presentation. It'll be educational. That is the purpose of the presentation, is just to update you on new information and resources that the Department of Land Conservation and Development has made available to coastal communities. And it'll probably raise questions for you that I'm happy to try to answer. And so we're looking forward to that. And that's all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Do we have 20 on there?
No.
No, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know. All right, commissioners, do you have anything to report? No, okay. It's a time for visitors' comments, not related to agenda. You three have told me you're just here to listen, so I know you don't have anything.
I'm just here for the presentation.
Okay, we have listeners today. Moving on, we have no public hearings. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. We have information and discussion about the beach and dune mapping. Who's gonna take over here?
In 7, let me make sure I can share my screen. It says host is disabled screen sharing. If you could give me permission, please. While we do that, I'll just go ahead and start introducing myself. My name is Rhiannon Bazor, and I'm the Coastal Shores Specialist with the the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development. As part of my role, I am the Goal 18 technical expert, and so I work with jurisdictions all up and down the coast on Goal 18 issues related to beaches and dunes, as well as a lot of coastal hazard issues as well too. Okay, great. I can share my screen now. Let me make sure that it's the right one.
Can you make it bigger, chat? Oh,
How's that?
that's better. That's
Okay,
lovely.
can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. My cat is trying to climb on me. So as Garrett had said, the purpose of this presentation is just to let you know about some new resources that we have available, some inventory maps that Dogami created for us, and some other resources from the agency too. So the Oregon Coastal Management Program, I'm just going to give a quick reminder for everybody in the room, is housed within the Department of Land Conservation and Development. We are a partnered network, so we work with all of the counties as well as the cities and all of the state agencies that have jurisdiction within the coastal zone. So we work across all 362. We just had this discussion at work today, whether it's 362 or 363 miles of coastline, as well as the estuaries and into the territorial sea as well. So as you know, comprehensive planning and permitting for all of our coasts is handled within the statewide planning goals, 4 of which are specific to the coast. So we have Goal 16, which covers estuaries, Goal 17, which covers coastal shorelands, Goal 18, which will be the focus of today for beaches and dunes, and then Goal 19 for the territorial sea and ocean resources. This is just a little diagram that we keep meaning to update because it looks like it was created in Microsoft Word a very long time ago. But just to give you kind of a visual representation of where each of these goals covers. So again, estuaries, shorelands, beaches and dunes, which kind of abuts the shorelands. And then we have the ocean resources and territorial sea out here. narrowing in on Goal 18, it covers beaches and dunes, as we said. And the main purpose of Goal 18 is to guide the protection and development of our beach and dune areas. Because these are very dynamic areas, they're very sensitive, and they're subject to not only a lot of human interactions, but also from the Pacific Ocean, as we know, can change things very quickly in a very short amount of time. Goal 18 has a few main provisions. One is the prohibition of certain areas for development. These are kind of the most sensitive areas, including open sand, active dunes, beaches. And so all of those areas are prohibited from development without exceptions, or not barring exceptions. It also covers preservation of dune vegetation. So we have specific rules about how vegetation can be removed and replanted. It also covers dune grading requirements. And so any grading that is not remedial has to be done within a dune management plan. And then one of the things that I think most people are most familiar with Goal 18 for is the limitations on beachfront protective structures, or BPS for short. But one of the lesser known or lesser kind of used parts of the Goal 18 is to have an inventory of beaches and dunes. So every coastal jurisdiction has to have this inventory. The inventory needs to describe the stability of the land features, movement, groundwater resources, hazards, and values of these different landscapes. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to jump in at any point. As I said, one of the main goals of Goal 18 is to limit armoring. Beachfront protective structures are only allowed where development existed on January 1st, 1977. And for the purpose of Goal 18, development refers to houses, commercial and industrial buildings, and vacant but improved subdivision lots. So why do we care where we have armoring? Some of the cons that come along with shoreline protective structures include that it can limit beach access north and south. If you have a really large riprap structure that's sticking out onto the beach, and you have high tides, king tides, really large storm events, sometimes though the beach access can be blocked off where that riprap structure is, and so you can have this kind of islanding effect on either side of it. And it's also a safety hazard in those cases too. It can alter the landscape, or it does always alter the landscape. It can break the line for terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems too. And it also disrupts the sediment cycle. So the main purpose of these structures is to slow or stop erosion, right? So in doing that, then the erosion that would normally be occurring and that sediment that would normally be entering the system is then blocked. And then it also can create aesthetic issues as well too. We have a very incredibly beautiful coastline, as we all know. And so people don't really want to see all of it armored up and down the coast as it is in many other states that I have lived and worked in. So we're a little bit special in that manner. Armoring is permitted through OPRD, Parks and Rec's Ocean Shores Division, if it is on the public beach, and their jurisdiction is from low tide line to the statutory vegetation line, or the line of upland vegetation, whichever is further east. And then these structures also require local government sign off and compliance with all the land use goals too. One of the resources we have online is through our Coastal Atlas. There we have a lot of really great resources on the Coastal Atlas. This one is the Ocean Shores Viewer. And this shows eligibility for all properties up and down the coast for Goal 18. So if you are Goal 18 eligible, your property will show up in green. And if it's not eligible, it will show up in red. And then it will also show exception areas too, such as, in Rockaway Beach, there's an exception area, for example, there. This website, just as a disclaimer, is being updated right now, but it is generally online and available to the public, and it's really easy to use. As you can see on the left-hand side here, it includes things like coastal hazards. You can see different administrative boundaries, so like where that statutory vegetation line is for OPRD, where the coastal zone is. So it's a really great resource. And why we care about the inventories for Goal 18 is that all of these different land use management components of Goal 18 really rely on what is happening in the actual landscape, right? So when we have updated data that actually reflects what we're seeing out in the real world, it's really useful to help actually make some of those management decisions rather than what we have been using. And the majority of our coastal jurisdictions are still using these maps for the inventories that were created in 1975. You can see that they're not very high resolution. We have digitized them, so they are available online, but they're not very easy to use. They don't have a lot of very high detail. And as you can imagine, since 1975, a lot has changed in the actual landscapes themselves as well. And the ability to be able to map them more precisely has also increased now that we have things like satellite imagery and really, high resolution aerial photography as well. So in 2022, we at GLCD were able to secure funding through the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, to contract with DOGAMI, the Department of Geologic and Mineral Industries, to update these maps that then could be used for the new inventories for all of our coastal jurisdictions. So on the right-hand side here, the image on the left of that, where it says the legend, that is from the 1975 maps. They actually went through and digitized it so you could see it a little bit better than the previous maps. And then on the right is the new classifications that DOGAMI created in 2022. So you can see that not only is there a lot of change both in the landscape, but also in how they actually classified different features. So, and you can see that in this pie graph here too. So what was formerly classified as dune complex, they kind of picked that apart and made it a little bit more specific about what types of dunes are actually in that dune complex. So rather than just having a dune complex, they pulled out inland foredunes. They have interdune areas. So a lot of this is reflecting the changes in the landscape, but also reflecting changes in how they chose to classify it based on the fact that they had a lot higher resolution data to be able to do so. And so some of those main changes that you can see between 75 and now, again, the dune complex was kind of picked apart to different types of dunes. In this 1975 maps, they also did not map the beach for some reason. I'm not sure why that was not included. So that is a big bonus for the new maps, is that they actually have the beach included. So that, as I mentioned, for those prohibition areas for active foredunes and beaches, we really want to be able to make sure that those are not being allowed for development unless they have an exception. And so being able to actually see that on a map is really helpful. And another change that is notable here is that they, in 1975, mapped a lot of area as wet deflation plain, whereas in the new maps, they actually ended up changing that to wetland. So again, some of that could be a change in the landscape itself or just how they chose to classify that. DOGAMI also created an entire report for this as part of a larger Clatsop County-wide report, and that is available using this link here, and I can share this PowerPoint with y'all when we are done if you have any interest in using any of these links. And so the report actually goes through all of their methodology, how they acquired the data, how they did the classifications, and then it does a change analysis to exemplified by this graph on the left. Another thing that we have provided to a few counties now, we have worked with Clatsop County, Coos County, and then the city of Bandon and Lane County to provide some model language that DLCD created specifically for Goal 18 model code. Excuse me. And this model code is designed to be able to really be tailored to each jurisdiction. So it says county specific needs here, but we can also do city specific needs. It updates the updates that we worked on them reflect the new maps and how changes and conditions have happened over time. We include things like sea level rise and coastal hazards. And we also have some provisions in there that reflect best practices for dune grading and how to limit armoring and vegetation management. And then something that we also just recently added in is some suggestions on how to address the new clear and objective standard requirements, given that the most of our coast is a very high hazard area. And so that was something that came up in working with Coos County of how to incorporate that to meet the new clear and objective standards for needed housing. And it's really just designed to be kind of a guide. You can pick and choose from the model language. It does not have to be a repeal and replace, but it also can be used as that. In the instances that we've worked with other jurisdictions, they have pulled things that they really like from their code and kind of incorporated it into our model code and added things that have come up along the way too. And one of the things that we also have offered is that even outside of this grant that we had worked with Bandon and Coos County on to update these maps originally, we're still available to work with any jurisdiction that is interested in using our model code and adopting the maps and being part of that process, providing our guidance and doing reviews back and forth of different iterations of the different drafts. And so that's something that is an ongoing offer. We're happy to do so at any time. If you are interested in using that, we can share the model code. I think Gearhart has it as well, and he can share that with you too. Some other resources that we have for more specifically for Goal 18, we have the guidebook on erosion control practices for the Oregon coast. This is one of our most used resources, I would say. It's really helpful not only for planners and local jurisdictions, but also for homeowners too. And it is designed to be kind of a pick and choose as you need or what your interest level is for different types of erosion control measures. So we have, softer solutions such as dynamic revetments or cobble berms, like in this cover photo here, all the way up to hardened structures like seawall and riprap. It has the pros and cons of each of those different types and kind of some information about different permitting types that may be needed for each of those, as well as reminders for the Goal 18 eligibility for those hardened structures too. We also have a sea level rise planning guide that came out in 2022 as well. This was also used by our coastal sea level rise fellow a couple of years ago now to do a lot of workshops up and down Clatsop County with our community members to highlight different areas that were of concern that may be inundated by sea level rise in the future. And so that is another really useful guide here. We also have a tsunami land use guide. This one includes a lot of model language as well, kind of similar to what we did with Goal 18, as well as some suggestions for how jurisdictions can better plan for a Cascadia event. And then one of our newer resources here is a coastal access guide. And this was created just a couple of, or 2 years ago now, I forgot it was 2026, a couple of years ago now. And it again has some model code in there as well. It has some history about public access and how it interacts with the different coastal goals as well too. So there are provisions within Goal 16 and Goal 18. And so that is another really useful online guide. And then coming soon, we just are finalizing the formatting for this guide is the Oregon's Beaches and Dunes Land Use Guide. This is specific to Goal 18 and basically encompasses everything that I had talked about previously. So it has background on Goal 18. It has some suggestions on how to adopt the new maps, as well as do comp plan updates and code revisions. It includes that model language that I had mentioned before. So that's one of the back appendices. It's the entire model language. And then it also has guidance for how to incorporate sea level rise and climate change, and to be really forward thinking in updating these Goal 18 requirements. So with that, I will stop sharing and take any questions that you have.
Do any commissioners have questions for our guest speaker? You're lucky. We have no questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Dawn.
Thank you, Rhiannon, for sharing that. As you were talking, I just wrote down a couple of things, so I had more than one. She talked about the dune beach inventory in Gearhart, and how does Gearhart conduct that inventory? She talked about that like in slide 3.
Are you asking her or?
I don't know. Whoever knows the answer is fine.
I'm gonna defer that to DLCD and Garrett and how that would be accomplished.
Okay.
Yeah, so the inventory that is in place now would have been based off of those 1975 maps. And so that is already been in use this whole time. So in updating that, you would probably be using the report from Dogami that accompanies the new maps. It has a lot about the hazards. It has the landscape features, obviously. So that would be the resource that would be the background information for that inventory, and then the maps component would be the other piece.
So the city of Gearhart doesn't actually do that.
No, we use the information.
The information that they provide us. Okay. Clatsop Plains beaches, if I can refer to it that, all the way from Seaside to the jetty has been growing for the last 120 years, right? So
Since the South Jetty.
since however long that has been. So you mentioned things like erosion and that kind of stuff. Does that actually apply to Gearhart?
I would have to go through and look in the actual data. So in addition to the maps that I just showed, Dogami also has made publicly available the GIS data sets. And so those have been shared with Garrett as well too. And so I would have to go through and look exactly where the accretion versus erosion spots are. But as you said, accretion is more prevalent as an issue in this area, and so it does reflect those changes as well too. And it's really just a change analysis, not necessarily showing the change in rates of erosion or accretion, but more the change in what type of landscape is being mapped there. And so some of that will be reflected as accretion. So if it was maybe stabilized dunes before and now it's more active dunes because it's accreting outward, that would be reflected in those maps. And one of the things that is possible to do that's really helpful with the GIS data is to actually be able to slide back and forth between them, between the 1975 data set and the new data set, so you can see exactly which areas have changed and how.
And that's done through satellite imagery or aerial imagery and that kind of stuff.
Correct. Yeah, it was mostly mapped through satellite imagery, I believe. They did some ground truthing as well. It was conducted by Jonathan Allen and Laura Gable from Dogami. So it does, in the report, it goes into more detail about exactly how they compiled the data, but I believe it's mostly through satellite imagery.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and I think my last question is, which does apply to Gearhart and the growing beach. Is it accurate to say that the beachfront property lines go to, I don't know if this is the right term, but the foredune?
There's a line. What's that line called, Chad?
So
There are.
Or Garrett.
And Garrett's probably when he gets to that side.
yeah, so privately owned properties in Gearhart, many of them extend out into the dune environment, and I'm not sure if they would line up exactly with where the foredune is presently. the Ford Dune is a moving target, right? But they do extend out oftentimes significantly beyond the line to which they are permitted to build anything, which we have an oceanfront setback line. That if you look at an aerial image of where buildings are, that line runs pretty much along the front of those buildings. And it kind of defines where development is now. But yeah, the properties extend
They
quite
do
a ways.
extend.
Yeah.
So as the dune / beach grows west, I'm not talking obviously about right now, but let's say in 50, 100 years, does that potentially make that area more buildable? Can you put septics out there? What? I mean,
So-
we're forecasting or fortune telling here, but
Yeah, so the dunes have been accreting for a long time in Gearhart. But I think this report or other reports that Jonathan Allen and Dogami have written note that trend is not guaranteed in the future. And that the sediment supply from the Columbia River is actually not infinite. And that the wave climate, the predominant wave climate in the ocean can change, and we really can't predict that. And so even when I see a change in dune mapping that says that dunes are stable or becoming more stable in one place, or I see that they're growing, if I think out several decades, I don't want to take that for granted, or take the trend for granted at all.
I think you probably also add in there seas rising for climate change. So
Sure.
that might just be like a moot point. So basically these maps and all of this technology is not what I hear you saying, is not to increase development in the dune area of Gearhart.
No, that is not the purpose of the maps and not why we brought the presentation to you today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. Anyone else? All good. We're all good. Thank you very much
Thank you
for
for
your
having me.
presentation. And we'll move forward wherever we go.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to talk about beaches
Okay.
and dunes all day long. Thank you.
All right, and Chad, you have her email address, yes?
We'll make sure that we get that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so any concerns of the commission? We don't have a land use attorney. The meeting is adjourned at 6:40.
Thank you.